Well, good afternoon from Scottsdale, Arizona. It's beautiful here. So it's August 10th, and a few things to talk about today. Some of the things that I've been talking about when we had a bad day today, it doesn't necessarily mean that next week can't bounce back up. I mean, the market's gone way beyond anything that I thought it was going to go to. It's almost gone parabolic. Martin Armstrong thinks that it can go to 38,000. So it's hard for me to believe, but he's got a pretty good track record. So maybe that's going to happen. I think it would be prudent for people to take some of their money off the market. We've talked about this many times, but that's really not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about today about what happens in a recession, because the world will change. What you have today and we go into recession is not what you're going to have tomorrow. So my understanding and my belief is that in 36 months, you're not going to recognize the world that we live in. So what are you doing to prepare about that? Now, here's some really startling statistics. We have more debt now than we've ever had in our lives. Matter of fact, we have more debt now than we did during the Great Financial Recession. You know, people have just run up their credit cards, run up their home equity lines, they've run up their personal lines of credit. And here's the scary part, is that the so many stocks have been bought on margin. So you know what happens when one gets called, why they want to sell it. Once you get sell, the further it goes down, the more margin calls there are, the more margin calls there are, further down you go. So that's just something that you have to be a little concerned about. But here's what I'm concerned about. I talked to a couple bankers. One was with Chase, and I said, how's business? He said, oh, business is fabulous. Business is really good. I said, really? Geez, that's marvelous to hear. He said, we're doing a lot of refinance. With a lot of refinance cash out. Well, okay. I says, many purchases? Yeah, I was doing a few purchases, but mostly refinance with cash out. And he says, and I asked him about home credit lines. He said, well, I don't know. I don't do home credit lines. But I went to my bank. I went to BMO Harris, and they're a Canadian firm. So I talked with them, and they said, oh, yeah, business is fabulous. Business is really good. So we're doing an awful lot of refinance with cash out. And we're doing a tremendous amount of home equity lines and lines of credit. I said, gosh, I remember 2007, everybody was doing that. No one had any cash. Everybody was buying and taking their money out and doing something else with it. So he says, yes, and he says, because we're a Canadian-owned bank, he says, we watch Canada, and Canada is a couple years ahead of us, and they've taken all their money out. They're in huge problems. I mean, they've over-encumbered all their houses, and people can't pay the bills. Now, let me tell you, this is exactly what happened prior to the Great Recession. Everybody took their money out and borrowed. So instead of their income coming up, so what happens when you start approaching a recession is that business starts to slow down, or you could get to the point think business is never going to end and everything's so great, and you go out and buy toys, and you buy a lot of things. That happens too. But eventually, what happens is that business slows down, and you're using your credit lines and your credit cards and your home equity lines to supplement your lifestyle. So instead of cutting down your lifestyle and cutting down your costs and trying to reduce expenses, they borrow. That's a classic sign that we're coming to the end of a business cycle, and it's just rampant. Just look around, ask your banker, and find out what kind of loans that they're doing. So it's a warning sign to me. And next time we go down, we're going to go down pretty hard. So here's what I'm saying to you is that get out of debt. Get out of debt. Cut your expenses. Cut your own grass. Go wash your own car. Clean your own pool. How about cleaning your own house? How about every once in a while you prepare your own meal at home? It's great to have a family around, but to quit spending. Don't make any more expenses. Cut down. See if you can't ramp up your revenues as best you can. And if you have to take a little extra part-time job, do that, because I'd like to see you have 60 to 90 days of cash reserve of your expenses. So when I say 69 days of cash, I mean greenbacks, hard cash, paper dollars, and I would keep them in small denominations, 5, 10s, and 20s, and don't put them in a bank. Don't put them in a safety deposit box. Keep them somewhere where you can get your hands on them. So I don't know where that is. Maybe it's at your mom and dad's house, or at your brother Bill's, or whoever's house it is, but have some cash, have some reserves, get rid of your credit card debt. Because, when we went into recession last time, it was not the assets that took the individuals down. It was the debt on the assets that took the individuals down, and we're seeing a repeat right now. There's a famous saying. It says history doesn't rhyme, or it doesn't repeat, but it sure does rhyme. So you can hear the rhyme going on now. So if you can get yourself out of debt and quit borrowing, I think we're going to have a tremendous buying opportunity coming to us. So those of you that have money in the stock market, we've talked about this before. Talk to your advisor, talk to your spouse, talk to your significant other, go talk to your person that you trust, and just say, hey, what happens if the market turns against us? At what point do we cut our losses and run? So look at, I think the market's up 15, 20%. This is like historic. So, why don't you take a profit? So what if you have to pay a few dollars in taxes? Take your profit and keep your money. If you need the income, now here's what I'm telling you, is if you need the income, there are other asset classes that will get you by. I'm terribly concerned about bonds. Now, federal bonds, probably, treasuries and bills and bonds are probably just fine. But you go out in corporate or agency or high yield, I think you're really going to have some problems. And I wouldn't even consider any sovereign debt at this point. So I borrow. If you have long-term debt on some properties, that's sensible, as long as you're judicious about it, because I do believe that we're going to see interest rates much, much higher, significantly higher, in 5 or 6 or 7 years from now. They could go down a little bit from here as if the economy softens. You can see demand drop off. People rush into treasuries and drive us down. But I don't think they're going to go down too terribly much. So if you get a chance to refinance, I wouldn't take too terribly much on it. 40, 50, 60% loan of value max, and make sure that you have plenty of leeway, because if we have a really bad recession, and quite honestly, there is so much built up problems in the marketplace. I mean, we have zombie banks throughout the world that need to go. Zombie industries. I mean, everybody loves Elon Musk. I mean, he's a phenomenal. I mean, he's brilliant. But, I'm probably going to get nasty emails from this, but he's really, really good at selling secondary offerings in the stock market. He's, none of his companies make any money. I mean, he's a visionary, but he's not making any money. So what will happen when you go into recession and you can't get any more secondaries? If you can't start selling the stock to somebody else to give you the money that you need, because he's burning lots of cash, you can see companies like that go out of business. So visionary or not, they, eventually you have to turn profit, and you need to turn a significant profit, because, when you borrow billions of dollars, people want to get paid back. So listen, debt is accumulating. Take a look. You can email me and let me know what your thoughts are on this. I'd love to hear. If you're talking in your hometown, go talk to your banker, go talk to your mortgage broker, ask them what kind of loans are being placed. I'd love to hear that. But from what I hear, there's an awful lot of refinance or cash out, and home equity lines. And home equity lines, that's just like another credit card, and people will spend that. And when we get into trouble, they won't have any reserves. So when they get into trouble, us with reserves will bail them out. And when we bail them out, that means we're probably going to buy their assets at much greater reduced prices. So here's my advice to you: talk to your financial advisor. Talk about an exit strategy. Pull some cash out. I wouldn't be embarrassed about taking 50% out. And if you need the income, we can certainly still do income here in probably the growth corridors of Florida, Houston and Dallas, in Texas, and certainly Maricopa County here in Arizona, which is #1 county in America, and get a good cash flow for you with something that even if we, so we're looking at a longer term hold. So I think you'd hold your property right through whatever downturn, but you take the cash on this. So if you need the cash flow, there's some really safe, conservative, or I shouldn't say safe, I should say safer, conservative vehicles to use, and we'll certainly help you out with that. But talk to your advisor. We're more than happy to talk today. So anyway, this is Michael Douville wishing you the very best